Utamanui te rā e tō haere ana Ko te tahatu o te rangi hei ahuru Moho ka huri ko tua ki au.
Obviously, it's been a while since the previous record. So what's the backstory about that? Why is it taking you so long to whip this one out?
It's never intentional that it takes so long.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I had a few of these songs, sort of back when I finished recording the last one. It's just a life thing, and then it sort of became a COVID thing.
Right.
So, yeah, it wasn't intentional. I tend to think it's going to happen really fast, and then it takes ages.
There you go. So the songs themselves, when were most of them written?
Well, I had like You, for example, the final track that was written, sort of around the time of Donald Trump running for president. So that's how far that one was back.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And then the latest one was just before the Black Lives Matter movement kind of kicked off last year, and that was Heaven Only Knows was the last track. So over the whole thing, but the majority probably would have been 2-3 years ago, maybe.
Gotcha. Well, it's interesting that you use Trump and Black Lives Matter as kind of milestones for things that have happened. Is that stuff that weighs heavily on your mind?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what You's about, in just regards to, sort of being exhausted from being overwhelmed and feeling guilty and helpless with watching, all of these significant things happen, and just having to switch off, just having to go, as much as I want to be educated and, know what's going on. And, I just found myself getting, my mental state of mind was not in the best place, because I just kept on witnessing these horrible things around the world happening.
Yes. It's a tough, definitely to watch that stuff. Oh, you just wake up every morning and it's like, what now?
It is like that at the moment. And that's, I guess that's just what's going to keep happening too, which is a weird thing to say. It's just times have changed. I'm sounding so old these days. But back in my day. The times.
Let me tell you, I go much further back than you do. Yeah. So you've got the NZ Symphony Orchestra on a couple of tracks. And who's produced the record? Have you done it, or do you have somebody working with you?
Just me. Me. Sort of,
just you?
Me, but I've got a lot of trust in the band. Like they influence their parts significantly, obviously. But yeah, I'm overall looking after the sound.
And the sound, did you have something in mind sound-wise going into it, or what were you thinking?
I think I kind of did. I wanted it to be really stripped back, which evidently didn't happen.
So bring on an orchestra.
Well, that's exactly what happened. They reached out and said that they were looking to work with more local artists, and they saw that I was, getting into pre-production. So that came about, and when that came about, that kind of changed the aesthetic of the record, really. It sort of, I've never really used strings on a major scale before, so jumping into a symphony orchestra was quite something.
Right.
So that, that influenced the kind of overall tone, I guess, and I got the quartet involved just to keep some continuity across the project. And there's a few different little tasters in there, but I think that's why it kind of took on a persona of of that type. And then, just through COVID and other things that were happening, we sort of jigsaw puzzled it together. We did the band recordings with Darren, Dan and Johnny in Wellington. And so no guitar at that point. And then, so that was the, the basis of it all. But then the NZSO was prior to that, actually. And then I did the quartet and the vocals in Hamilton. And then I did Solomeo and Teeks and Razor Beezer in Auckland.
Right.
And then Joel Mulholland did the guitars remotely at his place. So once it all came back together again, it was a complete mess.
I was going to say, it
With all
sounds
of these
very
parts.
disjointed when you explain it like that. How do you
Yeah,
put it all
and
together to make it sound like this? It's amazing.
Yeah, and it was quite, because again, I didn't want it to be really massive, but just because I would have some parts and then send it to someone without other parts, and so by the time it all came back together, it was just like a wall of noise.
Right.
So prior, obviously after that, I just had to sit down and dissect it apart, and
Right.
sort of. Yeah.
And did you do most of that on your own, or did you have people around you that you would kind of bounce things off of?
I made the decisions on my own, but I had help on the technical level, of course. Yes.
Right. Gotcha. So one of the tracks I wanted to talk about was Something Good. There's some pretty serious organ and piano in that, and
me. Got a Hollie Smith record without a Hammond in there somewhere.
Yeah. And what can you tell me about the song itself?
My boy Taimana, he's now 12, going on 30. But yeah, so he was just sort of getting, he was at that age. He's at that age now where the shine's kind of worn off life a little bit. He's starting to get a bit less ambitious, and just sort of that just kind of lowering his expectations of life and what he wants to do, and just reality's starting to play a part, and just wanting him to essentially remember that he still can do whatever he wants to do, and he can create his own path, and that he's wonderful, and I love him.
You say he's 12?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good time. The fun's just starting. Oh, man. All right. So that's Something Good. So who is playing? You mentioned you had a quartet of people, a band around you that's playing. Who exactly is that?
So my band on this record is Darren Matthieson on drums. He's still there from the beginning.
There you go.
Daniel Hales on keys and organ and synths. He's a little maestro. He's down in Wellington as well. Amazing arranger. He's insanely talented.
Right.
And Johnny Lawrence on bass. So that was the core band that we had involved. In Hamilton, because I do some teaching down at Hamilton Wintec.
Right.
And the person who arranged the strings, Jeremy Mail, he used to work there. He's currently at Creative Waikato. And so he arranged the strings kindly. And then I had some of my students do the BBs.
Put them to work. That's it.
Slave labor,
And then give them a B- at the end,
Yeah, pretty much. But they're all super talented. It was great.
I'm sure,
see them, they're super excited to be on it. And then Jeremy put together a quartet in Hamilton as well for that recording.
Right.
And then Joel on guitar. So it was a few different elements coming together there.
Good on you. Now, having the NZSO on several tracks, does that affect the way you approach your vocal when you have an orchestra behind you like that? Do you think differently about how you sing the song?
Good question. I probably am singing slightly simpler. I don't think I'm ad-libbing like I have done on previous records. Again, just to keep the focus a bit more simple. I don't know if I did that consciously or not, but I guess if I did it live, then I think I would approach it very differently. But I think recording-wise, just trying to keep it simple. As simple as you can with 70 people.
Exactly. Do you see yourself doing some live shows with the orchestra?
I'd love to at some point. I mean, obviously, mainly just a financial barrier, but ideally next year,
Right.
APO or NZSO, if something can happen, then it'd be really exciting. I haven't done that before, so it would be cool.
Seems like something that needs to happen.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Now, speaking of your vocal, I think the one that really, the one that I was hoping to talk about was Damage Done. You really seem to rip into that one. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was. We had a couple of. I was struggling with that one to find a direction, and somehow we ended up going, okay, let's do an anti-chorus where there's no shift into it. It was quite a funny little experience with that one. Yeah, well, that was written a kind of sort of around sort of the whole hashtag movement with the hashtag Me Too and hashtag Black Lives Matter, and just it was kind of written out of frustration of people who seem to stop the narrative by doing the all lives matter and
yeah
like that, and just accepting that sometimes you have to look at your behavior and recognize that you have maybe been part of the problem, and that's fine, and it's just about accepting that and turning the page and taking responsibility and moving forward, opposed to the defensiveness that seemed to polarize the situation. So that was where that came out of, that one.
Right. Have you been to the States recently or often, or?
No, not for ages, actually. Could have been probably about 3 years ago. I went over and stayed with Taika for a little bit. So that would have been my last time. I keep finding myself living vicariously through virtual reality, like Google Earth and stuff, going for little walks around New York.
Yeah, I hear you. So obviously being a musician and you tour a lot and all this, and you haven't been able to do a lot of that lately. What does that do to you? In your mind and for your creativity and all that? How does it affect you?
Yeah, the record was delayed a few times, and in regards to once it was finished. So I was expecting to have it out a lot earlier this year, which obviously because of touring, I didn't want to do too many shows.
Right.
And it got delayed, so I didn't do too many shows. So I feel a little bit out of touch. Yeah, right. I feel, I'm not very disciplined in regards to practicing or, anything. So I'm looking forward to, I need to start using my ears again. I'm finding just simple things like harmonies, which normally I wouldn't even have to think about, for a second, and then just all of a sudden go, oh, hang on, what's that? Mm-hmm. I'm just noticing that I need to start exercising my ears and my musical brain a bit more. But hopefully the tour should sort that out.
You would like to think so, yes. One other track I wanted to just touch on was Beside Me, because it seems kind of intense and kind of possibly.
Yeah, the lyrics on that one are reasonably transparent. It's just, and if a lot of these songs are actually, they're a lot more. Normally when I write about relationships, I try and keep it quite cryptic, whereas this one I kind of allowed it to be what it is. So that was just, it was also like, I guess it's just that thing where you are longing something that is not going to come back to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So how do you, when you hit the road and you're in front of people and you got your musical thing, your brain back in action, how does that change you and turn you into possibly a different person than you are talking to a schmuck like me?
I just think the interaction, I think my brain works differently with, when I'm focusing on the music side of things. Obviously with the industry, you've got to kind of got your business brain and then your creative brain. And I'm good at both, but I can't do it at the same time. Like I can't balance those things. So I'm looking forward to sort of being a lot more immersive in just the, performance and musical side of things. And quite often on tour, you've got song ideas that come together, and, at the end of it, you guys, we're all really, really tight. So even possibly look at doing some recording later in the year or early next year or something, just to keep the momentum going.
That would be cool. You don't want another 5 years between albums, that's for sure. And when you're out, when you do perform, do you have a lot of interaction with fans? Do people come up to you and tell you what the songs mean to them? Do you get a lot of that? It seems like you would.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I try and engage. Obviously, that's the point of going out and playing music to people. And I've never been very good at discussion on stage. I used to just go from song to song and
Right.
just stand there awkwardly between the songs. But with these ones, I feel like there's a few more things that I feel comfortable explaining. And so when I did a solo tour of this material, just the bare bones of it on piano
Right.
and vocal, just to see how it was, sort of seeing how it gauged with people. And people did really like it, and just really really enjoyed it, because for the first time I was actually explaining things and having conversations and making jokes, and so I'm feeling a lot more confident on stage with the interactive part of things, because I was never very good at that.
I think it's a Kiwi thing. Speaking as an outsider for a second, it's one of the things that I noticed when I came to New Zealand a long time ago was most bands and artists just kind of stared at their shoes and kept playing and never really had that thing going on with the interaction with the audience. Is it something you have to work at?
Oh, definitely. Pretty much any person that I work with in regards to teaching or something like that, that's generally always a question. It's like, do you get nervous, and how do you not get nervous? And it's like, well, you don't. You've just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. I mean, yeah, it took me 10 years to start feeling comfortable enough I guess because I care less. I used to just be, the main reason is that I've got a lot of things to say, but I understand that people are, a lot of those subjects are quite complicated and they're complex, and that there's several different ways to address something, and there's a discussion to be had with all of it, opposed to just choosing one slice of it. And I didn't want to offend anybody. I didn't want to
Sure.
say anything that made anyone feel uncomfortable or angry or whatever it would be. And so I kind of just would think about it, but then just not quite get there. But I think now I probably care a little bit less about what people think, and enjoy the engagement that I'm getting now with people who are responding to that. So,
right.
Yeah.
And when you listen to the album back yourself, because it's been a while since it was recorded, how does it make you feel?
I haven't heard it for a while.
You will.
Yeah, it was just, sort of, I don't know if I can listen to it objectively still at the moment. I keep thinking that I will hear something that I don't like. I think there's only one thing on the whole album, like one note,
right,
which drives me nuts every time. But I kind of, the last time I sat down with it, when I had to test the vinyl, I was surprised that I was comfortable listening to it, and
right.
And it felt good. So that's positive for me.
That's always a good thing. Yeah. Don't tell anybody what that one note is. You'll never be able to hear anything else again,
And there's a lyric as well. I won't say what song or what it is, because if you hear it, you can't unhear it. And I was in the studio singing it, and the engineer was like, what's that first line? I said it, and he's like, oh, it kind of sounds like this. And I'm going, and every time I play it to someone for the first time, I'm always sitting there kind of looking like this, and only a couple of people have gone. So I'll be interested to see if that creates any dialogue.
I'm sure, yeah. So the album is out in about a month and a half, I guess. October 22nd is the date.
Yeah.
Have you got plans for the day? Are you thinking that far in advance yet?
To be honest, I'm feeling a bit more anxious about tomorrow.
So what's happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow, What About single is coming out with the video. But basically, everything kind of goes live. So the artwork's available, and the website's up and running, and the pre-orders begin.
Thanks for sharing all this stuff with me. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to see this stuff live and get back out there. And
it'll be interesting to see how we arrange it. Obviously, we won't have an orchestra and 100 people with us. So
Yep.
we've done a couple of songs live and they've gone really well. So I think we'll
Sure.
just keep the basics going well. And
Very good.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your day.